Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 12th. It is 6:30. I'm proud to announce that we have a full, healthy dais here tonight, and so I am calling this meeting to order. The City of Bastrop reserves the right to reconvene, recess, or realign the regular session or called executive session or order of business at any time prior to adjournment. Council, we have a special surprise in store for us tonight. We have Girl Scout Troop 42805. The girls can start coming forward. We have Carly Ariana, Kieran Belcher, Peyton Buckler, Sophie Godinez, Riley Graham, Jamie Green, who I have known since she was this big, and she is now taller than me, and that's been very defeating for me. Ellie Hoover and Sophia Leal. And most of the girls go to Bastrop Intermediate, and a couple of them go to Cedar Creek Intermediate. Raise your hand if you've been together since like kindergarten, first grade. Isn't that impressive? They've been in the same scout troop together for all those years. And they are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag, and then they are going to lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag, and then they're going to turn around and say the Girl Scout oath for the audience. So if you would please stand, these young ladies will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
If you would please, yes, let's give them another round of applause. They're going to stay with us for just another minute. If you would please remain standing, Pastor Phil Woods, who also serves as one of our police chaplains, will be giving us the invocation tonight. Pastor Woods?
Father God, we want to thank you for the rain and that which is forecast. We want to thank you for the growth in our city and the privilege to be here. We pray that you direct the mayor and the city council by your spirit, giving them wisdom and knowledge as they move through the agenda tonight. We further ask that you bless each of our city's departments, those that put their lives in danger for our safety, protect them and help them as they make split-second decisions. Father, we have those that are hurting tonight for various reasons. But we ask that you help us as brothers and sisters to reach out and love and respond to their needs and help them in any way we can. And for all these things tonight, we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Woods. You may all be seated. And you guys can leave if you want. They have to go back home and finish their troop shirts. So they've got tie-dyeing to do, and I know that takes time. All right, Council, we are moving on to item 4A, the Mayor's Report. I have a couple of quick things before we get into it. Raise your hand if you knew early voting starts Monday for the November election. There, very good, very good. One of the things, several of us have gotten the mailer, wanted to remind everyone that early voting starts on Monday, October 18th. It runs through October 29th, and there is one Saturday where early voting is from 9 to 12. All of the early voting will be done with the express vote ballot, the new electronic devices. And if you, for some reason, that is not what you want to do and you really want to do a paper ballot, then you really need to vote on Election Day, because that's the only time that there's going to be paper ballots. So look up your polling places and encourage everyone to please vote. Really important that we do that. There's Pastor Woods talked about the rain that was forecast. There, it's a great time to remind everyone: turn around, don't drown. And on behalf of Chief Rosales and the police department, please slow down when it's raining. The trucks they're overturning, the traffic accidents. It's just it's a really good idea to please slow down a little bit. Council, you are aware that the City of Bastrop helps fund the household hazardous waste events that they do across the county, and we talked about the Bastrop Beige. I wanted to let you know that 99 citizens in the county, and they had 100 vouchers, 99 citizens came and dropped off stuff for the household hazardous waste, and they collected over 200 gallons of paint. So there's definitely going to be some Bastrop Beige. They're working on mixing it up now. And then I don't usually do this, but I'm making a special exception. There is a gentleman that has worked for the City of Bastrop for 25 years, and I think that you would be hard-pressed to find a Bastrop citizen that doesn't know this man by his truck, by name, know his family, and everyone who has Bastrop Power and Light always knows that Curtis Irvin keeps them with regular power. And Curtis isn't here tonight, and Curtis hates public recognition, so I would like us to have a round of applause for Curtis. Just does an excellent job, and we're so proud of him. All right, if Colin, we can go on to the next page. We're going to start in the upper left-hand corner. Eden East. I'll tell you what, you are hard-pressed to find any city that you can get a closer farm to fork than the Eden East garden and our storehouse eatery. And David asked me to come to the first birthday, and that's one of the first times I've gone to a birthday party for a garden, but it was a great time. I came home with fresh eggs and sourdough bread and a loofah. I didn't know that loofahs grew in a garden, but now I do. Had a great time and really appreciate the contribution that they make to our community. Just below that, you'll see yet another ribbon cutting that I attended, the CC Wine and Company. They're in a new location. We are so happy to have them downtown. And then just below that, one of the other fun things I get to do is judge chili cook-offs. And it's a little bit warm outside, but they had tents for us, and Austin Title and First Centennial Mortgage had their first annual chili cook-off, and there I am with some of my other friends that were judges, and all of the funds went to the Feed the Need mission, which is just a fantastic nonprofit that we have. And then, Colin, if you go up and just slightly to the right, this sweet lady who is holding the Visit Bastrop bag, I attended the ARCIT conference, which is the Association of Rural Communities in Texas, and they asked us to please bring a door prize. This is Kathy Pollock, and she is the Assistant City Manager and Code Officer for the City of Somerville. She was as sweet as she could be, and she picked our bag because it was color coordinated to her outfit and her hat. And I really want to give special thanks to Susan Smith. I asked her to help me pull together a door prize. It had a 2-night stay at the Hampton Inn. It had some moonshine. I believe from the Sugar Shack, it had a fudge in the shape of Texas. And Miss Pollock was bragging about having the best door prize of the entire conference, so that was a lot of fun. And if you go, let's go to Nunset. Colin, if you missed Nunset Boulevard, you missed laughing, and we all enjoy laughing. There is another play that's on. It's a murder mystery. I'll be going Friday night, and just encourage folks to, we'll be talking about the Opera House later on our agenda, but they're a great asset to the community, and it's nice when we can all participate with that. Just below that, I am with the band Left Arm Tan. They were the opening act for the Chubby Knuckle Choir at Old Town, and Dan Hines, who is in Left Arm Tan, and Mr. Peterson, I know we all, back in the day, everybody's left arm was hanging out of the car, right? There you go. You got the look. And they said that they were a band, they would describe themselves as the Eagles and Pink Floyd had a baby, and the old 97s was the babysitter. So they had quite the crowd, and they were from Fort Worth, and they had so much fun, and they stayed and listened to the Chubby Knuckle Choir and started talking to us about maybe we need to just move to Bastrop. So just hats off for the Bastrop Music Festival. Then to the right, Colin, Cement Solutions was a ribbon cutting that I attended. Yusuf does such a great job, has a great business, and we're glad to have him in our community. And then the last two pictures, I did my best. Colin, we're going to go down and we can show both of those. On the upper right of that picture, we were missing Councilmember Jackson. We took the picture before Councilmember Jackson got there, and then on the one below, we're missing Councilmember Peterson. But we were all there, and we attended lots of meetings, and we have a really pretty picture coming to us from the Scenic City Award, and we had the city secretary was with us, Assistant City Manager Gleason will be in that picture, so we'll look forward to sharing that picture as soon as they send it to us. All right, Colin, let's go over my planned activities. Was pretty short because I did my mayor's report when I got back from the conference Friday afternoon. And one of the first things I did Saturday morning was go to the City of Bastrop Recreation's program Bali X, which was an excellent exercise workout. Now, I know, because they've talked to me about it, that Jimmy and Lyle and Drew are all members of the recreation program, and I want to invite the rest of council to join the recreation program and also tell you that we can have really a good time at Bali X every Saturday morning. So I'll look forward to y'all being in class with me. And I'm so proud of our recreation program. You can do pickleball, there's adult 3v3 soccer, and one of the things that they have just started, some people can be a little overwhelmed by the equipment that's in an open gym, and on the third Thursday of every month, which would be October 21st, next week, at 10 a.m., you can get a 45-minute program where a trainer will walk you through all of the equipment and make sure that you're using it safely. And they call it Confidence in the Gym. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. I was at a BDC workshop yesterday. We're at council tonight. Let's go on to the next page. On Thursday, I will be out at Lost Pines Toyota. The big pink bus is coming back. It's a breast cancer awareness event, and we want to encourage everybody to encourage their loved ones to get the mammograms. That's a very important thing. I know there's an Alive After 5 event. I don't know if it's the 14th or it's the 21st, or you're not having one at all. Okay, so, which is a good thing, because I didn't think I was going to be able to go anyway, because we have our Boards and Commissions Appreciation Banquet, and I'll look forward to seeing council at that. I've been asked to attend and speak at a leadership event on Friday, and on Saturday, the handmade holiday market's going on at Lost Pines. You see a few other meetings there, and council, we will be back in these chambers in 2 weeks on the 26th. That's the end of my mayor's report. Councilmember Peterson, do you have anything to share with us this evening?
Just a little bit, Mayor. I must say that after walking around Houston so much, I need to go and join Bali X. I mean, it was a real workout, I guarantee. With that, just make one comment. One of the events I attended was the guys talking about the winter storm Uri. And just sitting there taking in the information that they were putting out, it made me very, very proud of all of the work that our directors put in Bastrop, because these guys got to talking about some things, and I said, wow, our guys from Bastrop really, really stood up and took care of what they needed to do during that winter storm. So kudos again, Curtis, if you're listening, and the other Curtis, and all the Bastrop staff that plugged in and helped make that event so uneventful, but all staff did a great job. I commend them.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Peterson. Councilmember Rogers?
Well, thank goodness you only got a report that I've signed up, not how many times I've attended, because then it would go to F. But I'm signed in, and I will not be there on Saturday.
Okay.
Sorry.
Maybe next Saturday. I know you're
never
busy
Saturday.
always, yes.
That doesn't even sound like fun. But the TML was tremendously educational. A few of the classes made my brain bleed, though. The tax one kind of was crazy, a little bit over my head. That was crazy. But I really appreciated going. I mean, I appreciate the city sending us. Those classes they had lined up were really informative. And walking through the showroom, finding all the neat things that they've got available now. So, but that was great. Good information.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Peterson. Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A little bit different. I want to thank our City Secretary, Ann Franklin, for the information that she provided us prior to the conference and the organization of the conference.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that because you know how disorganized I am. That didn't deserve a giggle from anyone.
I didn't say a word.
The other thing is I regret that I was unable to go to the appreciation luncheon for our first responders. I'm very proud of our fire chief and our police chief and the work that they do, the professionalism they show, and the dedication they have to this city. So thank you. And third, thank you, Madam Mayor. I watched you during the music festival, and I watched you down in Houston, and you amazed me how you advocate and represent the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's easy to talk about something I'm so proud of. Councilmember Crouch, I want to extend thanks for you attending the TML conference. It was the third time since I've been mayor that every single council member, we had a full dais that was at the conference. And out of 2,550 people, I didn't think you were going to find a family friend sitting behind you in the opening session, but really appreciate you attending the conference. Councilmember Crouch.
Yeah, that was a good conference. I'm glad I got to attend that, and also got to spend some time with the rest of the council for a little while. So that was really nice. And I did bump into some friends from I can almost say kindergarten. So that was really strange that they were sitting right behind me too. I wanted to thank the city manager for the FEMA flood video. I missed the conference. I wasn't able to attend it, and then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, I know they made a video of that, and then I came home and watched it on YouTube. So thank you for having that and all the builder forums and stuff that you've been having on video. So it gives us an opportunity to attend when we didn't really have the time to do it at that time. And I've been gathering information on the Sister City program, and I've found a lot of positive things from the Baron to Bastrop. So I ran across a lot of negative things where I didn't really think we might not want to be involved with that, but I've got a lot of positive things out of that now, and I'll share that when I'm done gathering up all my information. And the last thing was the skate park. I just wanted to thank the Parks Board again for getting that all done, because it is packed every single day. There's a lot of skaters down there, so I'm glad we've got something for our kids and really grown-ups. I've seen some 40 or 50 years out there on a skateboard too, which is a miracle, I think. But that's it for me.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Crouch. Councilmember Jackson.
Well, being the recreation person that I am, I feel embarrassed that I haven't joined yet, but I will definitely be joining quite soon. After going to TML and having to walk those hallways and I knew how out of shape I was. I really am. So I know I need to go and get on the treadmill and do some other things. I even used a scooter for the first time in my life, because after walking so much one morning with some of the conferences and going off site to another meeting, I just couldn't walk anymore. So I chickened out and used a scooter, but it was a fun experience. And I didn't run over too many people with it. But the conference was good. I always find the legal question and answer session to be really informative. And no matter how many times I've gone through those before, they always seem to amaze me with some of the questions that are answered and asked. And so that was really fun. On a different note, I just wanted to mention, I know most of you already know, for those of you that didn't know, our former council member, Dr. Neil Gurwitz, passed a couple of weeks ago, and I had the honor of being at his services, and the family had asked me to speak on behalf of the community for him. he was truly a remarkable man that I've known since first grade. Got my first pair of glasses from him, and then he was president of the school board when I graduated and handed me my diploma, and then served on the council with me for 13 years. So I just, I'm saddened by his passing, but I'm glad that I got a chance to really know him. And so for those of you that didn't, he has a website that is still up that his son is going to continue that promotes Bastrop. He really worked hard on that and was always trying to update that. But a truly remarkable man, and I hope later on, once everything settles down, that we'll be able to do something in his honor for the family and some of the friends. Since it was a, you know, due to COVID, we didn't have a large attendance, a large amount of people that were allowed to come to the service. It was primarily the family. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Appreciate that. Dr. Growitz is well known in the community and certainly an asset. City Manager, we're on item 4C, City Manager report.
Thank you, Mayor. Did I hear you say you met a person who was Assistant City Manager and Code Enforcement?
Yes, I was going to mention that to you tomorrow.
That's an interesting concept.
Yes.
All right, so City Manager, Council, one of the things you regrettably missed because you were at TML, in addition to the First Responders Lunch, was our annual National Night Out event. This year's event looked a little like last year's event. It comprised of a parade of public safety vehicles and staff, and really appreciate the effort they made to put all that together, and I think the community appreciated it. Next year, we'll endeavor to schedule this thing when council can be here and attend the TML conference and participate in this. That'll probably mean we'll need to reschedule from when the National Night Out is observed nationally, but hey, we're Bastrop and we can do our own thing. And next year, we'll also endeavor to do a more traditional block party kind of thing throughout town. The Public Works Department has been working improving streets throughout town, and notably just completed an asphalt overlay project on Arena Drive, and they worked hard on it. And here's some photographs of that if you guys haven't had a chance to drive down Arena Drive recently. And here is a photo of one of the things that happened at the First Responders Luncheon. Our Chief Nagy submitted a certificate of appreciation or recognition of service to one of our fine police chaplains, Mr. Jimmy Cottle, and that was well done by Chief Nagy and very much appreciated by Mr. Cottle. Another slide indicating some work of our Public Works crews. The parks guys with Public Works have had a real challenge recently keeping up with, unfortunately, graffiti has become more of a recent problem than before. We're taking steps to try to find the guys who are, or gals who are doing this and put a stop to it. It has taken up quite a bit of our Parks Division time to, and key to success is make sure that stuff doesn't stay out there so long. That might be a clue, yeah. And you guys have already talked about the Texas Municipal League event, and I'm happy and proud to be city manager of a city that sent every member of the city council to TML. I don't think that happens everywhere, and council, I appreciate your dedication to your service. We had a really great meeting of the Bastrop Youth Advisory Council here in this room yesterday. It's a great group of young folks who are really, really smart and really interested in the whole concept of public service, and that's really encouraging to witness. And so in this meeting, they heard presentations from Colin Guerra and me on the subject of how cities, and Bastrop in particular, approach strategic planning and communications. And then Candace Butts led them through a discussion on youth engagement. Council, you've heard me mention before that we're going to ask these young people on the Youth Advisory Council to ensure that our parks master planning process And the input we're receiving from area youth is a successful and beyond statistically valid process. And they were engaged and had a lot of really terrific ideas, and all of which we'll work to implement. And council, you know this is happening. This Thursday at 6:30 is the annual Board and Commission Appreciation Dinner. Thank you for attending that. And this council will meet again in 2 weeks on October 26th. One item on that agenda you know about from reading my weekly memo from Friday, I did authorize on an emergency basis the construction of a water line project in West Bastrop. Details of that are in the weekly memo, and we'll present a request that you ratify that contract next meeting. The city attorney has been working with us on developing policies for dealing with proposed municipal utility districts, and we're going to show you that draft policy on the 26th. We're going to get an end-of-the-year report from Visit Bastrop. Your Planning and Zoning Commission recently approved a zoning concept scheme for the Farm Street Village project, and we'll ask you to hold that public hearing and consider that positive recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission on first reading on the 26th. And you know that we've been working with the Deep in the Art Foundry here in Bastrop on an art immersion contract, typo there. We'll ask you to consider that at your next meeting as well. That comes with positive recommendations from the Cultural Arts Commission and the Main Street Advisory Board. October 26th actually has quite a bit on the agenda. Here's another slide. One of the things we budgeted in the capital program is a citywide master drainage plan, and we're recommending that contract be awarded to Half and Associates. That'll be on your agenda. And again, it says contact, it should say contract. We are asking council to take that first step in giving us permission to issue the certificates of obligation. That's the $3.6 million issuance that's intended to fund street improvements here in Bastrop. We received notice from Bastrop County that they are asking us if we're going to continue to partner with them in elections to adopt their new voting system, and City Secretary Franklin will explain that to council for the October 26th meeting. And the mayor's made an appointment to the ZBA, and council will be asked to confirm that. And that concludes my report. Thank you, council.
Thank you, City Manager. Council, any questions for the City Manager? Councilor Rogers?
Just a clarification, Thursday starts at 6 or 6:30?
6:30, I believe. 6:30.
Okay. It was on the calendar at 6. I just didn't want to show up early or 30 minutes late.
Doors open at 6.
Oh, that would be me. Thanks.
Any other questions for the City Manager? All right, we're moving on to item 4D, a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, recognizing October 18th through the 23rd as the Chamber of Commerce Week. So before we read the proclamation, I want to mention that we have a wonderful relationship with the Chamber. We are thrilled that we're able to provide the fireworks for the Patriotic Festival. We all do things together. We're all interested in businesses being successful, and we appreciate the voice of the business that they serve, and we appreciate the partnership. And it has been mentioned several times, and I see that we have several board members with us and the president. It's good to see you, Ms. Tuggle. I want to, on behalf of council, make the request, because we already know now that there's a conflict with the TML conference next year, that the first responder luncheon either be rescheduled to the second week in October or do it in November, but do something to allow us to be a part of that and not have to make the difficult decision of choosing between educating ourselves as public officials and being able to recognize those folks that work for us. So since I have the board and everyone together, want to make that official request and give you a year's notice that we really would have been there. We just don't know how to be in two places at the same time. So I'm sure we can get that resolved. So, whereas there are more than 3,000 chambers of commerce in the United States, there are more than 600 chambers of commerce in the state of Texas. Whereas the Bastrop Chamber unceasingly promotes our community for quality growth and development, and we are very, very thankful for that. Whereas the Bastrop County Chamber of Commerce as our community has and continues to seek to achieve successful results for our community in a cooperative spirit with other organizations. Whereas the Bastrop Chamber of Commerce has proudly represented the business community in Bastrop County for almost 100 years. Council, you'll have the opportunity, and I know City Secretary has already visited with you about if you want to attend their 100-year celebration, which will be on January 14th, not their normal date. They moved it to the actual date, and isn't that exciting to do it on the actual anniversary? And whereas the Bastrop Chamber has been a strong partner with the City of Bastrop in endeavors to promote and develop our local business community, now therefore I, Connie B. Schrader, Mayor of the City of Bastrop, do hereby proclaim October 18th through the 23rd, 2021 as Chamber of Commerce Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Bastrop, Texas, to be affixed this 12th day of October. Ms. Womble, if you and your board would like to come forward, be happy to, and Colin will be taking pictures, and I see Mr. White back there as well. Let's have a round of applause. All right, Council, we are in the middle of page 2. We're on work session briefings, item 5A, presentation on the Bastrop City Council's establishment of Economic Development Policy Directive. And before Joe starts, I want to share, Council, we had a meeting, and you will recall that we had our meeting with the Economic Development Corporation, and ended up having a conversation. Paul and I met with Joe and talked about the economic development attorney pointed out that the best communities are when the Economic Development Corporation and City Council are as tied out as they can possibly be and be aligned. They have different objectives that they're trying to, not really different, but they have a different perspective on things. And it's really important for there to be alignment. And we didn't really have a policy directive in place. We didn't have there's a lack of some processes. Paul asked me to sit in a meeting with Joe, and then Joe and Paul and I had a meeting with Janora Young, who's the interim executive director, and Catherine Nash, who is the board chair of the Economic Development Board. And we all met and talked about a way to move forward. So this evening, and I don't know if we're going to go straight to Joe or if Mr. Hoffman wants to say anything. This evening, we're going to bring to council a proposal and kind of talk through what the next steps would be. There won't be any decisions made tonight. This is the presentation. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions, and we will go from there. Anything I forgot to cover, Mr. Hoffman?
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Esch, it is all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you this evening. It's often said that the longest journey begins with a single step, and tonight is the first public step of a process. The plan in that process, the plan to move forward, the path to move forward is what I hope to outline with the presentation this evening. And as a part of that, I'm also going to talk to you about the destination. Now, the destination is both certain and uncertain. It is certain in that the outcome is to seek success for this community and the EDC, to set forth a path where there is an alignment of views and a direction that is provided for the ultimate benefit of this community. What that actually looks like is the path that we're going to take, because the outcome will be decided by this deliberative body. So the path for this presentation, the process, I'm going to go through a series of things. I want to introduce myself. We go through a fundamental set of assumptions on how I propose to approach this project. The assignment, which is the description, the scope of work for this effort, an approach to that, a process, and a schedule. So when you start with introduction, who am I? Why should I be up here? Why would you listen to me? Well, I have been in development, in economic development, real estate development for about 30 years. So I hope to give you a sense for that. So as we have a conversation about the process in economic development and economic development boards, I'll be able to give you a sense for what I have done over this time period. My background includes, I have both my bachelor's in business administration from Wichita State and an MBA from the University of Minnesota. I have a Texas real estate license. I have what's called a CCIM, which stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. That's important to the real estate process. It's less than 10% of the population of real estate folks throughout the United States and throughout the world have that designation because it deals with how people make financial investments in real estate. I also have what's called an economic development finance professional from certification from the National Development Council. So I've spent a lot of time in education. Then I've spent 30 years essentially in development and redevelopment. I started life in economic development in Minot, North Dakota. In a state at that time in 1992, people didn't think it existed. If it did exist, they sure didn't want to do business there. So it's not an easy sell also to say, hey, there's not a lot of trees, and guess what? It's 45 below zero before the wind chill. So it was a difficult sell. And from there, I went to Fargo, and then from Fargo, North Dakota, which was also a difficult sell because everybody thought they wore plaid, had funny accents, and there wasn't a reason to move there either. But then I came to Nirvana. I moved to Texas in 1999 to start Sugar Land's economic development program, and that's where Paul and I actually met. Spent about a better part of a decade with the city of Sugar Land. Ultimately, I had Parks and Rec, I had transportation planning, started that department, started legislative affairs, and also had the airport. So I've had from one person up to over 150 people that have reported to me. Manage budgets, manage processes. I work with municipal management districts. I've worked with TERS. I've worked with 4As. I've worked with 4Bs throughout this process. From a process in Sugar Land, I went to work back in the private sector. And I was traveling so much, I leave on Monday and come back on Friday and in real estate, that my kids called me their second favorite father and wanted to find out who the first one was. After 3 or 4 years, I decided to come back and worked with the city of Missouri City running their economic development efforts. Throughout this time, I have dealt with all asset classes of real estate. I've done over $3 billion of transactions. I've managed projects, portfolios, processes from office developments to industrial park developments to projects in residential to hospitality, entertainment districts, baseball projects, all different types of asset classes. So my experience is relatively broad. And one of the things I have learned over this time, and I should bring this also, I have spent time working with state agencies through universities, from cities for an economic development department, from private side, which are membership-driven organizations. So I have both the public and private side of economic development experience, as well as the real estate side from the private side. And last year, in September of 2019, I retired from City of Missouri City and TMRS. And since that time, I've been working in commercial real estate, and then things have progressed to where I've been working with communities, bringing some of the experience I have in this other area to the benefit of the communities. So that's who I am and why I'm here. And one of the things I would tell you is oftentimes there's a precept that says communities from the regulatory side and the economic development side don't have the same goals. I would disagree with you wholly. Economic development exists to move the community forward. If you give up your soul to obtain your goal, you have accomplished nothing. And the soul of a city is through its community and through the regulations that you set forward to make sure the place is where you want to live and the community reflects the goals and objectives. So there already is an inherent alignment between economic development and communities as you go forward. So moving forward, fundamental assumptions. As I looked at the fundamental assumptions, I thought about this. And I thought about where we were going with this. I realized that above my wall in my office is a quote from Theodore Roosevelt from 1910 from a speech he gave to the Sorbonne, a citizen in a republic. And in that, he does a number of things and chides people for not be cynical. But the famous quote within that speech is what's called the man in the arena. And it really is a part of my fundamental assumptions. And that quote says, "It is not the critic that counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, and who at the best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails greatly, so his place will never be with the cold, timid souls who neither know victory or defeat." These are my vision, these are my values, these are my enthusiasms, my devotions, and I'm going to offer to you that I believe that they're also yours. I believe that you folks are citizens of the Republic. You are the man in the arena. You are the ones who spends themselves in a worthy cause to move this community forward. And I'm also going to suggest as we approach this, so is the board of the EDC. It falls with a certain set of assumptions that you both seek, both the EDC and the city seek common goals. You're not adversaries. You may have different means by which you see you need to go this, but however, the city helped create the EDC, so those things need to be aligned. You're both interested in quality development for Bastrop. You understand that alignment of understanding and the organizational direction is the best interest of this community. The EDC, fundamental assumption, was created to help support the city's growth, help support economic development. It's focused on a specific set of goals and objectives. It's a critical component of all the city's economic development efforts, but it's not the sole part. There's other things that a city does to undertake economic development, but this is a critical component of that. Its purpose is not in conflict with the city's purpose as a regulator. As I said before, if you give up your soul to get your goal, you have failed. Economic development does not make a good project out of a bad project. It makes a good project possible. Today versus tomorrow, here versus there, to a higher standard, to a higher quality, to a larger amount than it might otherwise occur. But to do that requires that there are standards that are met throughout the process. The city, my assumption is you're a home rule city, and you have all those powers except for those that the state has reserved. Exists to provide critical list of services for the benefit of your citizens. You promote safety, a well-organized place. You need to make sure in the complexity of development as it moves forward, you need to make sure the traffic system works. People want to make sure their plumbing works. People might make sure that they live in a place where, and I mentioned this to Paul, over the weekend, I live in Weston Lakes right outside Houston, and there was a fire, consumed a house in our neighborhood. When the fire department got there, there was no water in the fire hydrant. That's a bad thing. This is what your citizens want to make sure, that there's a predictable environment for safety for themselves. Again, the fundamental assumption is that the city plays a necessary role as a regulatory authority and to ensure that this development process moves forward and meets the codes and ordinances of the city. And you're to be commended, because one of the things that you've done is you've undertaken as a man in the arena, you've created a comprehensive land use plan. You've created your B3 code, which is your development code. These are the things that are positive and help promote economic development. They are not at odds. Now, that's not to say that there aren't things that you can do. I'll give you an example. One of the last projects I did with the city of Missouri City was the attraction of Amazon Center. That process had no incentives. 1 million square feet, over $600,000 of an annual revenue to the city, had no incentives. The thing that we could do most is work with the city to accelerate the development process. The city's goals were maintained. They had a safe environment. They had a predictable environment. The company could meet their development objectives and timelines, but the city's needs were met as well. Everyone worked together toward the common goal. So the assignment is that you desire outcome is to create a clear and concise policy directive regarding economic development, to align the purpose of the EDC with the city of Bastrop, to ensure the role of the EDC is in support of the city's economic development efforts, that the operational relationship between the city and the EDC, it's not only defined, but it's clear and it's functional and it moves forward in a predictable manner. There's information that needs to be shared on both sides. Here's what's going on in development infrastructure. Here's what's going on in projects. Here's how they interrelate. If you need capacity for a development over here, that may impact the things we need over in this direction. All those things need to be communicated. The roles and responsibility of the EDC board and staff are one of those outcomes that we're seeking as a part of this assignment. So the approach is to establish the goals, which I have already articulated. The next thing is to review the factual information for this process, for the elements of the situation, to gather opinions and insights. One of the things that we're going to do is to ask to be able to have interviews of all you folks, the board of the EDC, critical staff members on both sides, to gain the insights, opinions, to help move this forward. And then identify if there are any areas of disagreement. That will lead us to holding a workshop, facilitated discussion to review these items. Here's the economic development fundamentals. Let's step back for a second and say, what is economic development? What does it mean? What are the options? Let's take a look at the different types of EDCs that are out there. Let's take a look at how they function. Let's take a look at 4B corporations, or Type B as they're called now. Let's take a look at the pros and cons of these different options. Let's take a look at the structural differences. For example, y'all are public officials. There's no incompatibility of office for you to sit on the board of the EDC because you're not public officials. They are not public officials. You folks are responsible to the public who elected you. Let's share this input and gain from these conversations, identify the areas of conflicts and the options for addressing them. Ultimately, that would lead to a conversation, and I should back up to say that part of this is make sure that we're sharing that with the board along the way. You're partners in this process, and that's the way everyone's going to be treated. So this process is going to have presentation tonight is the first step. 4 main elements. This kicks things off. From there, the assessment of the situation, which includes those individual interviews, easy for me to say, of council, EDC board, staff, and so on and so forth. The next step is the facilitated workshop and ultimately the communication of these goals to the EDC. From a scheduling standpoint, tonight is the kickoff. The next will be next Monday, and where I'll be making a similar presentation to the board to talk to them, answer their questions, move this process forward. The following week, toward the end of the week, is to schedule the in-person interviews wherever possible. And if need be, certainly they can be remote, but hopefully in person. Gather that information, take it back, churn it, then come back with a facilitated workshop discussion on the 9th of November. The outcome of that workshop discussion would then be communicated to the EDC board, said here's the things that the council's discussion. Again, there's no final action that takes place on the 9th or on the 15th. Then come back on the 14th from those workshop discussions with a resolution that reflects the views of this council for your consideration and action. As I have a tendency to get wound up and talk as fast as I can, that is the end of my discussion for this evening. If there are any questions or comments, concerns, I'd be happy to answer them, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Council, any questions for Mr. Esch? Mayor Pro Tem Nelson? Thought I saw you taking notes.
Yeah, I was just notes for myself. One of the pages in there, you said was going to look at, identify those areas of disagreement. At the same time, I would imagine we'll also look at areas of agreement so that we can find some common ground with which to start with, or is it just look for those areas of disagreement and then figure out how we can resolve them?
Well, I would apologize in that if it gave you any impression that we would not look for areas of agreement, because that the structure of all my comments have intended to be positive. And in the positive nature of those comments, you certainly look for areas of agreement. But to highlight those areas that if you're in agreement, those are the things we're certainly going to focus on. But there's those things we need to change, we'll highlight them. But the areas where there does need to be work done, that's where maybe some additional conversation should be had. But most certainly, it is not about finding problems solely. It's also about finding where there's things that people agree upon and how to move things forward.
Councilmember Jackson?
No, I just wanted to say that I think this is going to be a very meaningful discussion between the two organizations, and I'm glad that Paul, our city manager, decided to bring you in to work with us, because this is something that I think the citizens would really appreciate, and it's something that will help us in the development of our economic development plan for the city and for the future growth and development here in Bastrop. So thank you for coming in and bringing your insight, and hopefully in some of the discussions we have, we'll be able to proceed and to make some progress.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Crouch?
I was just tag on to what Doc just said. That was exactly almost to the word of what I was going to mention is I'm looking forward to the process, and I know that there's a need for that because we don't meet often enough, and this will bring out a whole bunch of things I think that we need to discuss. So thank you for doing that, Paul. And
All right, council, we have a citizen signed up to speak on this item. Herb Goldsmith? Mr. Goldsmith, the timekeeper is Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
All right. I was looking at my utility bill and I realized there are a number of increased charges. I feel like I haven't been paying attention to council meetings or the agendas. Today I decided to pay attention. When I looked at the agenda today, 5A kind of stood out. The agenda packet states there has been a lack of clear direction by the City Council to the economic development objectives and priorities. It states that particular roles of BEDC in the City of Bastrop need clarification. It asserts there needs to be a policy directive to align the purpose of BEDC in the City of Bastrop. As proposed, the SFR will be completed by a facilitator who is currently being recommended by the city manager in today's workshop. And I would assume that BEDC has little input on that proposal. We all know what a Type A and Type B Economic Development Corporation is. Type A, industrial development projects such as business infrastructure. Type B also include funding for parks, museums, etc. The state retains 6.25% of the tax. The county gets 0.5%, BEDC gets 0.5%, and the remaining 1% goes to the city. BEDC has had many successes with the 0.5% tax. Recent projects include the Seton Ascension, Agnes Street, the Art Institute, completed skateboard park, hike and bike trail, etc. Successful projects in the past have included Buc-ee's, Burleson Crossing, numerous other infrastructure projects. Even Chamber said, they do a great job, true win-win, help our quality of life. All this has been completed via the current structure and existing governance by the city. The current council has great power. The mayor appoints the board members, the city council has to confirm them. BEDC requires city council approval on projects. And I would like to note, tax A proceeds are not intended to fund general infrastructure needs of the city. Type A and B corporations may assist with limited infrastructure improvements that the board finds will promote or develop new and expanded business development. One of my concerns with this agenda item is the city governance is about to set policy that we use BEDC funding to possibly supplant city budget expenditures, including specific infrastructure projects. Until recently, the BED structure and council interaction had a balance. BEDC is tasked with completing economic development for Bastrop. It not only serves the city, it serves our surrounding community. New jobs and opportunities for county residents are crucial. County residents purchase services and tangibles in our city and generate significant sales revenue. And right now, a lot of people can't afford to move to this city. I fear if BEDC is marginalized, by policy directives prioritized by city staff, the imbalance will leave repercussions far beyond what I can say tonight. So what has changed? Why are we at an impasse? I believe the role of the proposed facilitator should not just encompass a narrow policy directive. It should facilitate a transparent, collaborative process that helps generate solutions to the impasse and foster sustainable economic development for the citizens of Bastrop and the surrounding community. I proffer the council consider what I've said tonight. Thank you for your time. Oh, and also thank you for Planet Fitness. That is a really nice facility. It has a great program. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr.
And I also
Goldsmith.
appreciate all your service.
Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith. Appreciate that. All right, council, any further conversation? As we had said, there's not an action to be taken on this. Council, you all had a copy of the slides that Mr. Esch presented. Just giving you one more round. All right, we are moving on to item 6A, receive presentation on the unaudited monthly financial report for the period ending August 31st. Ms. Waldron.
Good evening.
Mayor and Council. So August 21, we have one more month to report on this fiscal year. We feel like we kind of pushed that fiscal year aside when we approved the 22 budget, but here we go. General fund is ending August very strong, 22% over forecast. Sales tax, the forecast in the budget was increased with the last budget amendment, so the forecast is 14%. The actual is 14% positive to the forecast. Development fees are exceeding 1.3 million over the budget year to date. Funds not exceeding, we've been talking about HOT all year, but each month it gets a little bit better and a little bit better. We're at 18% below forecast, which is better than the 23% we were the month before. So I just keep looking at that. July and August have both been positive months. Capital funds, no different. Interest rates are not very good right now. They are creeping up just slightly. And the debt service refunding transaction, I'll have a budget amendment at a future meeting to adjust all those. On the expense side, the same refunding transaction and the debt service fund. Cemetery is actually running a little bit behind their budget. We've purchased back 10 plots this year, which is the most I've seen in a year. So that has caused us to go over budget. Water and wastewater bond sale transaction, all other funds look good. Any questions for me on that?
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Council, any questions? Councilmember Crouch?
Can you explain the plot buyback? Is it just what it says? You just purchase it back from the
So
purchaser?
we
But
have,
we buy
yes,
it
we
back at what they paid for
we
it,
have
and
in
then we
our-
get to sell it at the going rate.
Yeah. I had
Yes.
never heard of anybody selling their plot.
Sometimes people move
People
out of the
move.
community or they, yeah, but we've actually had quite a few this year. But like she said, we buy them back at what they paid for, but now we will resell them at the current rate,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Jackson?
Just on a personal note, Carla Stovall told me to tell you hello. Saw her at TML, and she was knowing that you were doing a great job, and I assured her you were.
Nice, thank you.
All right, council, anything else for Ms. Waldron? All right, we're moving on to citizen comments, and we have one person signed up for citizen comments, Erin Nicole. If you will please come forward and state your name and your address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Hi, Council. Thank you for having me. My name's Erin Nicole, and I live at 110 Elgin in Weberwood Road. I don't know, it's in Elgin. My family lives here in Bastrop. My nephew goes to the Bastrop schools. I was a child here in Bastrop. I left, joined the military, and multiple other things, taught high school for 2 years and a bunch of after-school programs volunteering to support youth. Today I have a nonprofit called weareonefoundation.org. We are supporting a project called Youth Inspired, and I've been going to school board meetings and youth meetings and meeting parents, and it's just really apparent that there's a lot of, passion and fear going on. And we see here at We Are One that we can come together in unity. And how can I support you with my network in our nonprofit to create possibly an inspired city in Bastrop to support our youth and parents to bring that inspiration within inside of us? Because if we feel inspiration and we feel hope, then we create community togetherness. We can bring the leaders to help the youth, to help to support the parents, to bring more jobs and more togetherness. So I just wanted to come and speak and meet you guys and just see how and what we can create together with the network that I already have and what we've done with the youth and the parents in the past. So that's basically.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nicole. Welcome back home. And thank you for your service to our country.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for listening.
You bet.
I did send emails to everyone with all the emails and stuff for you. Thank you so much.
All right, we also have a sign up from Chris Kirby. Mr. Kirby, if you'll come forward and state your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes to address council.
Good evening. Chris Kirby, address is 33 Lost Pines Ave. right in the shadow of Arena Drive, so thanks for fixing that. I love seeing that happen. This is actually a little bit of a cheerleading session for you guys because as I sat and listened to things earlier, I'm sure you get more than enough folks coming up and telling you all the things that need to be done, aren't being done, whatever. That is not my purpose. I did want to encourage you on a couple of fronts. One was on the Youth Advisory Council that City Manager Hoffman was talking about. We need to recognize and keep in mind the sort of silent mass of children in this community called homeschoolers. As the homeschooling father of three, oftentimes those kids are not included in things like those youth advisory councils, and they would be a tremendous asset in that endeavor. They would bring a difference of perspective and a difference of energy that I think is really critical. Always we're looking for ways to be able to create more diversity, whether it's diversity of thought or diversity of ethnicity or gender or anything else, right? And so this is another one of those places where I think it would be fantastic to try to figure out ways to be able to include the homeschooled community. If you need help with that, then trust me, I can plug you in. The other thing I would say is just another place where I would just say thank you, and that is the interaction of the city and the chamber. As a member of the chamber board for the last couple of years, I love to see synergies, and I love to see us all with the oars pulling in the same direction in the water. This community, it's not news to any of us, is in massive transition. And when we hear about, our friend from California saying he's bringing yet more of his stuff into town and all the rest, I think to myself, we're sort of, is it the eye of the storm, the eye of Sauron, the eye of something is facing our direction, and all of us are going to have to pay attention. But I also think that when I'm hearing about things like the EDC trying to figure out how to work better with the city, with the chamber working better with the city, with the incredible relationship that it seems that all of us have with BISD, and I might also add just a huge plug for Barry Edwards, the superintendent of the school board. The BISD's interactions with the homeschool community has been more than laudable since his arrival, and I think that's just another one of those places where we recognize and understand as a group that we are all here trying to serve as best we can the people who live here now and those who are coming. Because there's just such an incredible history and such incredible, personality and culture to this city that all of us just are yearning to maintain while recognizing that change is coming and it's coming fast. So I just wanted to say those things to you all. I'm glad to have been here, with the chamber, but I also just really appreciate the time and the energy and the effort that every one of you all put into this. You have a thankless job. And so at least once, I just want you to hear a thank you from somebody who sees it, recognizes it, and really appreciates what you all do. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirby. Is it okay if I call you every once in a while when I am beat down and I need someone to say thank you? I might put you on my speed dial.
So, Mayor Schrader, just keep in mind, the first time we spoke was when we had that water outage.
I know very well the first time we spoke.
We had the water outage up there, and you helped us out a ton. So, yeah, I'm on your speed dial anytime.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kirby. All right, Council, we are moving to the last item on page 2, approval of the minutes. Item 8A, consider action to approve City Council minutes from September 21st, 2021, regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Councilmember Crouch and a second from Councilmember Jackson. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. We're moving to the top of page 3, item 9A, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-93 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, confirming appointments by the mayor, Christina Keeney to place 2 and Cynthia Hellesvig, I hope I said that correctly, to place 4 of the Bastrop Housing Authority, and Darren Kesselis to place 3 of the Fairview Cemetery Advisory Board as required in section 3.08 of the city's charter and establishing an effective date. Council, we had 2 vacancies on the Housing Authority Board, and they had a situation where they were having a hard time making a quorum and they needed to get their budget approved. So for the 2 places on the Housing Authority, I appointed them so they could have their meeting. So you are ratifying that appointment, and after you ratify that appointment, should you choose to do that, they will then have another meeting and ratify what they did before October 1st. So we're trying to dot lots of i's and cross lots of t's, but I wanted you to know that that one took place a little bit out of sync. And with that, I respectfully request your confirmation of the appointment.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Rogers.
Second.
Ooh, I had lots of seconds. Councilmember Peterson, I'll give the second. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Council, for your confirmation, and thank you to these three individuals and all our individuals that serve on our boards and commissions. And again, we'll be looking forward to recognizing them on Thursday night. Council, the next items are item 9B, C, and D. When you went through the packet, you saw there were a lot of similarities. I'm going to read off all three of the items. We're going to hear one presentation, and then we'll take a vote for each one of the items. But instead of having to hear it 3 times, she's going to talk to us about what some of the differences are. So item 9B, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-94, the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, awarding a community support service agreement for service for operating, marketing, and staffing Lost Pines Art Center and providing programs to citizens and tourists at the cost of $60,000 as attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents for the agreement, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Item 9C, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-95 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, awarding a community support service agreement for services associated with operating, marketing, and providing cultural, art, and theater services to the Bastrop Opera House at the cost of $118,806 as attached in Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents for the agreement, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Item 9D, consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-96 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, a community support service agreement for services associated with operating, marketing, and providing museum and visitor center services to the Bastrop County Historical Society at the cost of $195,243 attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents for the contract, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. And with that, I will turn things over to our Community Impact Manager, Candace Butts. Ms. Butts?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Candace Butts, the Community Impact Manager. We're here today to consider the resolution for community support contracts for our community assets. Let me get back to the first asset is our Lost Pines Art Center. The funding amount for the Lost Pines Art Center is $60,000. We have modified service plans for each of our assets, and the description listed on each slide is things that stand out for each contract. So this one's different. It includes the Lost Pines service plan, includes maintaining and tracking traffic counts and marketing data. The next contract is for the Bastrop Opera House. It's for $118,806. The modified service plan for this group is the collective year-over-year ticket sales and market data, and also any improvements that they do to their historic structure must comply with the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. The next asset is our Bastrop County Historical Society, and that funding is $195,243. And their modified service plan includes visitor center is open during downtown Bastrop events to provide restrooms and also to provide services to visitors in our community, and also maintaining year-over traffic counts and marketing data. We've modified all the community asset service plans to include the following items to capture and promote our community. They'll include develop an annual marketing plan that will promote following reach and engagement, also create programming for groups and conventions, receive city permits before making any improvements or renovations, and then foster a thriving cultural arts district with participating with the city and the Main Street Advisory Board and Cultural Arts Commission. The next slide is recommendations from council moving forward on their quarterly reporting that will be added to our quarterly reports. And so you'll see the first thing is they're going to be reporting on their social media, website, newsletter statistics that will include year-to-date, year-over-date statistics. And that will also be including total visits to their website, reach, engagement, and open rate. And they will also have year-over-date visitor statistics that will include a number of visitors, percentage of overnight stays, and then the last thing they'll be reporting on is programming information. That is a short paragraph of quarterly services, programs, and collaboration that they collaborate with other community groups and other assets. And that's it. Any questions?
Councilmember Rogers?
So I saw that we were asking the visitor center to be open during events. Do they have specific days they have to be open throughout the week, or is there, I mean, we're paying them to be open, so I was just curious if they have set hours in their contract to be open.
No, ma'am, they don't currently have any set days or times or hours. The being open during downtown events was actually something that's been in their contract previously, so that wasn't a new addition, but if council would like us to add open a certain amount of hours per week or certain days, we're happy to do that.
I think we might think of that going forward. If it's a visitor center, I mean, we want to know they're open when visitors are here, just some sort of basic something we might want to, just because if that's what we're paying them to be open, we might want to just think about it going forward to have some kind of.
I agree with you, Councilmember Rogers, but Assistant City Manager Gleason, I don't think you're trying to say that they don't have standard hours, because they have hours on their.
So she was saying that we're not requiring them to have standard hours.
So it's not in the contract that it has to be like until Friday from 8 to 9. Like, it's not that we don't put standard hours in their contract, but they do have set hours that they open, of
So
course.
we could put their standard hours as a part of the contract, that they keep those standard hours.
Sure.
To set some hours and keep them.
Yeah, and we could add that tonight, right?
Well, I don't feel comfortable adding it because I don't know what their hours are, so I don't.
They're 10 to 5, Monday through Saturday, because I just Googled it.
Good idea. So, well, I think they're doing a great job.
I think they are doing a great job, and
So-
adding something that's already in there just makes it easy to say, yes, we're doing what we said we were going to do. And of course, if they have an issue, they can always come and modify the contract and say that they need to change their hours. But I think
instead of putting the times, I think it's however many hours a week that is, that way they could, if they want to go to 9 to 4 or something, then they could do that without putting the block in there, just that they're going to be open 80 hours or whatever.
well, that schedule is 42 hours. Maybe we say that they're open a minimum of 40 hours a week.
That works.
Is that agreeable to everyone?
That way they can alter it to what's best for their business.
Yeah, we're not trying to take
Yeah.
over. We just want to know for
We
sure
just want
what.
to make sure they're open sometime.
Exactly. Councilmember Crouch, did you have your light on?
I did. On your bullet point, on that first group, you have open rate there. What is that?
It's for like newsletters or anything. It's like how many times someone opens and views that document.
Oh, that kind of. Okay.
It's that social media stuff,
Yeah.
Councilmember Crouch. Any other
I'm sure,
questions?
council member, you subscribe to several maybe email newsletters, and you never even look at them. I know I do. I get so many that I just delete. So that's why not only is your newsletter subscriptions important number, but that open rate is really important. It means you're being engaging.
Now that I know what it is, I'll open it up.
Council, any other questions on any of these items?
Did you want to vote for them separately?
We need to vote for them separately. So I'm looking for a motion on Resolution R 2021-94.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember
Second.
Rogers and a second from Mayor Pro Tem Nelson. Is there any additional discussion about the Lost Pines Art Center? Council, I want to remind you that that is a budget that was cut, and they have told us, and certainly they'll be, through this quarterly report, they'll have an opportunity to show how they're doing, and we should fully expect them to come back and ask for some additional funding. Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. I'm looking for a motion on R 2021-95.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Mayor
Second.
Pro Tem Nelson and a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion on the Bastrop Opera House? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. We're moving on to 9D, looking for a motion for Resolution R 2021-96.
I move for that approval.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Jackson.
Second.
A second from Councilmember Crouch. Is there any further discussion about the Bastrop County Historical Society Museum and Visitor Center? That motion would be with Councilmember Jackson with the addition of staying open a minimum of 40 hours?
Yes.
And Councilmember Crouch, you agree to that?
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Council, we're moving on to item
Ma'am,
9E. Madam
If you don't mind, I'd like to tell the city manager, thank you for making the reporting of these groups a little more uniformed, because I think it'll be easier for us when they do report to be able to gauge them all, since they're all going to be gauged on the same thing. So I want to say thank you.
Well, and thank you for your service on the prior Finance Committee where we discussed the importance of all that. So, yes, ma'am.
Good stuff. Always helps for us to all be on the same page, looking after those tax dollars very carefully. Moving on to item 9E, consider action to approve the second reading of ordinance number 2021-14 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, amending the Bastrop Code of Ordinance, Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Article A13.02, Water and Wastewater Rates and Charges, Sections A13.02.002, Wastewater Service Charge, and A13.02.004, Water Service Charge, is attached in Exhibit A, providing for finding of fact, enactment, repeal, or severability, and providing for an effective date. Ms. Waldron.
Well, I put slides in here, but you know what? Maybe they didn't make the final cut. It's just a review. The sewer rate, the base fee is going up by $5, so we'll end up with $46.97, I believe. And we're also tiering in some base equivalencies for the AWWA, the American Water Works Association, over the next several years. So there's a chart in there that kind of tiers any, I believe it's meters over 1.5 inches. So that's what this ordinance is changing, effective November 1st.
Council, do you have any questions for Ms. Waldron? I want to note that the ordinance ordinance number 2021-14, there was an insert in the utility bills that tries to make sure that all of our citizens are aware of how they can find out the information about the rates. Those of us that were on council back in 2017 and 2018 recall that there was a discussion. We didn't want to do a huge rate increase at once, and that's why we were doing an incremental increase on, and that was after doing a very thorough study on service charges and trying to always balance the cost of providing things like fire hydrants, making sure they all have water when you need the fire hydrant, making sure that when the toilet flushes that you are not contaminating the Colorado River, all those things that have not only are a good way for us to serve our citizens, but we all know that when you are not able to provide those types of services, there are plenty of state jurisdictions that will give you fines that will make any rate increase fall by the wayside. So I appreciate the rate notice being in there, and there is a link to the ordinance if anyone would like to read and understand more about it. With that, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
I move to approve, but I also want to remind everybody that was a great presentation when we did do that study. I mean, that gentleman talked, I mean, he really knew all of his things and got us really prepared for all the upcoming bills that we're gonna have. So my other question is, was that insert on the digital ones if they don't get a bill?
It's always included, yes.
Okay, I was just curious. I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Councilmember Rogers.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion?
I think, yes,
Mayor
ma'am.
Pro Tem Nelson?
I think it's important. I want to go off of what Councilmember Rogers said. I think it's really important that we created some clarity in our billing by talking about the base rate and talking about the usage rate. And I think it's much more clear than what it was in the past. And I really appreciate the work that our staff did on it, as well as our consultant.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Nelson. Any further comments or discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. We're moving to our last item for individual consideration, item 9F. I'm on the bottom of page 3. Consider action to approve resolution number R 2021-97 of the City Council of the City of Bastrop, Texas, awarding a service agreement to Tyler Technologies for implementation of the conversion to new software platform V10 at the cost of $67,320, attached as Exhibit A, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documents for the agreement, providing for a repealing clause, and establishing an effective date. Ms. Waldron.
Yes, so this is just it's not an upgrade, it is a true conversion of our financial software that we use here. We're on version 9. I've been here 9 years. We've been on version 9 for 9 years and longer before I got here. So it's time. Version 10 has been out quite a few years. I don't like to jump onto a new version too quickly because I really like for them to work out the bugs before we convert onto the new version, but it's certainly been out there and it's time for us to move. There's a lot of advantages with the new version. It's going to be more efficient in a lot of ways. I know from an IT standpoint, they say that it's on a much stabler environment than our version 9, and so this will get us there and we'll be able to convert 2 years worth of data.
Council, if you reviewed the staff report, you know that this item was included in the appropriation that we approved on the budget, but as we know, with our fiduciary responsibility, we have oversight on the contracts, and that's why they're coming back for us to approve the contract. Are there any questions, Councilmember Crouch?
How many versions did we skip in that 9 years?
None.
None? So this is the first update in that span? That's good.
Councilmember Rogers? Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
One of the most interesting things, along with what Councilmember Crouch said, was the fact that it's been out for several years and worked out the kinks, and it's good to know that we're not the beta for this, that
Yes,
we're
I
not
don't
the
want
guinea
to be the
pig.
beta.
So yes. Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Nelson.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Peterson. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, if you'll call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Jackson?
Yes.
Councilmember Crouch?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. It is 7:52. Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Peterson
Second.
and a second from Councilmember Rogers. It is 7:52 and we are adjourned.